Hi everybody, this is Dr. Dalton from Hammond Chiropractic, and today I wanted to make a special video for you specifically about arthritis because that's something that I've never spoken about before. Now I'm going to be talking more specifically about arthritis in the spine because that's what we work with on a regular basis, but I want you to know that all the information that we're going to be covering in this video also applies to arthritis anywhere within the body, no matter where it is that you're experiencing that problem. And today, more specifically, when we talk about the spine, the type of arthritis that we're generally referring to is called osteoarthritis. There's many different types of arthritis that can happen to a person, and they all will respond to some of the tips that I'm going to be giving you today. So go ahead and listen closely because I think you're going to find that no matter what it is that you're suffering with that's arthritis related, this will actually benefit you quite a bit. But the first thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about some misconceptions about arthritis that we used to believe when I was going through school, and this is actually what they taught us going through school because that was our understanding back then. The first thing that we believed about arthritis is that it's age-related, meaning that it only happens to us as we get older. And actually, now that we know a lot more about it, we know that that actually isn't the case. And there's a few things that I can show you that will prove that to you. First of all, if we look at an x-ray of the spine where there is some arthritis, what you're going to see is that the arthritis develops in just one spot. Now, wouldn't you agree with me if I said to you that every joint in this spine is actually the exact same age, correct? So if arthritis were strictly due to aging, wouldn't you agree that the arthritis should be in every single joint in the spine because they're all the same age? That's what you would think would happen, but it isn't the way that it actually works in the reality. What we find is that arthritis targets one joint typically, one or two joints usually. And so because it's targeting a thing, that tells us that this isn't age-related at all, because if it were, it would affect the entire spine, not just one spot. The other thing that we're seeing nowadays is that arthritis is happening even in teenagers. I'm starting to see that more and more regularly. The reason this is happening is because what we've now discovered about arthritis is that it's very sensitive to lifestyle and diet in particular, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But because the diet of today's children is not as good as what it would have been before, we're starting to see arthritis developing much sooner in younger people because they're not taking as good care of themselves. The other thing that it has to do with is how active they are. A lot of people are not as active as they used to be. Now we've got TVs, we have our phones, we have our video games, and so kids don't go out and they don't play as much as what we would have when I was a child. And so what we see is that arthritis is starting to develop sooner because of that. And we're going to talk more about that in just a minute. The other thing that people used to believe about arthritis is that it was irreversible. And arthritis in its nature is a degenerative condition, meaning that if you just let it be and let it do its thing, it's going to deteriorate over time and get worse and worse and worse is what will tend to happen with it. And we, in my understanding, or at least when we were going through school still, our understanding at that time was that arthritis, once it was there, it was permanent. There was no turning it around. And yet when I got into practice, I started to see that that wasn't really the case at all. It didn't make sense to me because what would happen was I would have a patient come in as a new patient, I would take x-rays on them, and we would find that there was arthritis in their spine. And then we would go through some care, and then let's say another injury or something of that nature happened to this person. We took a new set of x-rays, and the arthritis that was there before would be completely gone, and the joints would look completely normal at that point. So it didn't make sense to me why that would happen. But now we actually know that arthritis can be reversed if given the right circumstances. The problem is, and the reason that we don't see this often is because most people don't know what those circumstances are. They don't really know what to do to make it happen. And they're not easy things to change because we're going to have to talk about your diet, your exercise habits. All of these things play a role with this, and most people aren't willing to change those things. So I'm going to give you the information, and then you can do whatever you need to do with it. All right? So let's next talk about what a joint is, because a joint is where arthritis develops. A joint is anywhere where two bones come together in the body, and those two bones are held together by ligaments, and within the space that we call the joint, which is the space between the bones, there's a fluid in there that we call joint fluid. And this joint fluid is really, really important because what happens in the joints is that the oxygen and nutrients that the joint needs to remain healthy is stored inside of that fluid. Not only that, but as a byproduct of the body working, joints will actually create toxins, and these toxins have to be pumped out of that fluid and eliminated from the body for the body to function properly. Now, here's what happens with a joint that starts to develop arthritis. That joint actually locks and it stops moving like normal. Now, in the spine, there's a perfect example of this, and that is a subluxation, which is what chiropractors talk about. And let me just show you what that is real quick. So what can happen in your spine is that if we take a closer look here, these are just two bones in the spine. Sometimes these vertebrae can actually misalign out of their normal position. And in most of the videos that I've spoken to you on, I've talked about how this puts pressure on the nerves, and that causes a lot of problems because the nerves are basically the power source of your body. You don't ever want to cut off that power supply. Well, what we haven't talked about in my videos is the effect that it has on the joints in the spine, which is where these bones are coming together. You see, when this vertebra misaligns, it actually locks into place. You know, most people would say, well, if it misaligns, why can't it just go back to its normal position on its own? Well, the reason for that is because it's locked. So there is absolutely no movement here. So what happens is that when you have this subluxation develop and this locks into place, all of the joint fluid in the different joints that make up your spine, that joint fluid isn't moving. And so all these toxins are building up inside of that joint fluid, and also you're not getting new oxygen and nutrients. Now, I want you to think about this. If you didn't feed your body for years, what would happen to you if you didn't eat? The body would deteriorate and basically you would die at some point, right? That's what happens to a joint when you have arthritis. What arthritis is when all those toxins build up in there and it's not getting kicked out, and also it's losing oxygen and nutrients. That joint wears out and it starts to die, and that's basically what arthritis is. We see this in the spine, we see it in the knees. Anywhere where there is a joint, this process takes place. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important that a person who does have arthritis, especially in their spine, sees their chiropractor on a regular basis, because what we do is we find these subluxations and we correct them, which unlocks the joint, gets it moving again, and also takes the pressure off of this nerve so that healing and functioning can improve. But by allowing normal movement to come back into that joint, now what's going to happen is you're going to start to eliminate those toxins from that joint fluid, bringing in new oxygen and nutrients, and that joint is going to start to heal. Now, the other thing that's really important, in case you haven't already figured this out, is movement in general, because movement is actually what causes that process to happen of cleaning out the joint fluid and bringing in new oxygen and nutrients. So the other thing that you have to make sure of if you're dealing with arthritis is that you're more active. You have to make sure that you're exercising on a regular basis. And actually, there was a study done here. I have it right here, actually. This was done in Complementary Therapeutic Medicine in 2018. And it's called Movement and Manual Therapy for Adults with Arthritis, 2012 National Health Interview Survey. And what they looked at were 3 different groups of people. The first group had arthritis, and they started seeing a chiropractor on a regular basis. The second group had arthritis, and they started exercising more on a regular basis. The third group had arthritis, and they did both. They saw the chiropractor regularly, and they started exercising more. What they found was that all 3 groups showed improvement in the arthritis symptoms. But the group that did both the chiropractic and the exercise, they had the best outcome out of everybody. So it's important that you are not only seeing your chiropractor to get the joints moving again like it's supposed to, but that you also start exercising regularly. You need to do both in order to get the full benefit from these things. Now, the other thing that we know about arthritis is that it is very sensitive to your diet. You want to make sure that you're sticking as closely as possible to an anti-inflammatory diet. Arthritis itself is an inflammatory condition, which means that it gets irritated very easily. So your food can actually increase the inflammation in your body and make the arthritis worse, and we don't want that to happen. Now, there's just a few simple things that you can change in your diet that will help you improve this. The first thing being to eliminate or lessen sugar as much as possible. And I know that's hard. For me, that's my challenge. I love my sweets, I got to tell you. But if you can eliminate the sugars from your diet, what's going to happen is it's going to reduce the inflammation in your system, and it's going to improve the arthritis symptoms. But not only that, it's going to help to slow that degenerative process and even start to reverse it for you. So reducing your sugar or eliminating it completely is the first thing you want to do. The second thing that you want to try to reduce or eliminate is white flour. So breads, pasta, tortillas, all of these things that have white flour in them, when your body digests the white flour, it converts it into sugar, and therefore it increases the inflammatory reaction within your body. So we're trying to eliminate that. So the less of those you can do, the better off you're going to be. Finally, one of the things that you can do that helps a lot is to increase your green vegetables. Spinach, kale, broccoli. These are some great vegetables that you can increase in your diet, and what they do is they help eliminate toxins, but they also help to make your body more alkaline, which makes arthritis calm down, all right? Now that's something we haven't talked about here in more detail, and I don't want to go into detail because that's a very complicated topic, but one thing that we know about arthritis is that if your body becomes too acidic, it reacts in a very negative way, and actually everything doesn't function as well. When the body has an acidic environment that's created there because of our diet, our lack of exercise, really it's lifestyle related. But when the body becomes acidic, it can't heal as effectively and the body cannot function as well. The opposite of acidity is alkaline. We want to make sure that the body stays as alkaline as possible, and increasing your green vegetables will help go a long way with making that happen for you. Now, the other things that we know for sure, or tips that I can give you that will help improve arthritis is this. Number one, because the joint fluid is a fluid, we want to make sure that you stay well hydrated. Of course, that means that you want to increase your water intake. If you struggle with this, one of the things that really can help you improve your hydration quickly is by drinking coconut water. Coconut water has a lot of good minerals in them that will help your body become rehydrated quickly. And actually, one thing, this is just a little side note, this really doesn't have anything to do with arthritis, but if you get a lot of leg cramps at night, that's usually a sign that your body is dehydrated. One thing that you can do is drink a bottle of coconut water before bed, and you'll see that it will improve the leg cramps pretty dramatically. But with arthritis, we also want to make sure that the body stays hydrated, because you've got to keep that fluid replenished, and with water as well as the oxygen and nutrients that we were talking about before. The next thing you can do is this. One of the typical signs of arthritis is that it will get stiff and more painful first thing in the morning when you wake up. And then you're going to notice that as you start moving, it starts to ease up for you. The reason that happens is because remember, the joints need movement. So when we lay down at night and they stop moving, anywhere where there's arthritis in your body, those joints are going to stiffen up because they haven't been moving. One of the easiest things that you can do to help improve that symptom in particular is to keep a heating pad by your bed at night. And then when you first get up in the morning, put the heating pad on whatever is bothering you where the arthritis is, and just leave it on for about 10-15 minutes. It'll loosen up that joint and make it a lot easier for you to start moving in the morning. However, if you have that symptom, that's also a very strong sign that your body is acidic. So you also, once again, have to look at your diet to make sure that you're addressing some of that as well. Now, the next thing I want to talk about here is I want to talk about some supplements or some nutrition that you can include in your daily activities that will help you to, number one, reduce the symptoms of the arthritis, but also if you're dealing with it, it will help you reverse the process. And if you don't have arthritis, these will help you prevent the arthritis from developing to begin with. The first thing I would recommend for you is a good barley green supplement. Now this goes back to what we were talking about with the acidity. Barley green is a very strong alkalizer, and if you take this on a regular basis, it's going to prevent your body from becoming too acidic where it starts to cause a lot of problems for you. The one I recommend is by a company called Mortar Health System, and it's called Alka-Green. It's very good, and you can just follow the directions on the bottle. And that I recommend that you just get that at Amazon. In fact, most things I recommend that you look on Amazon for, because typically they're less expensive and you can get them pretty quickly. So I like the Alka-Green product there. The next thing you can do is a krill oil. Now this is important because this has basically it acts as a lubricant for the arthritic joint, so it's going to help replenish that joint fluid a lot more quickly for you. I recommend one by a company called Viva Naturals, and also this is something you can just get on Amazon, and it's just 2 tablets a day. That's what it recommends that you take, and that's what I recommend for you there. If you have a lot of problem with pain from arthritis, one of the best things that you can do is start taking a turmeric supplement. But you have to be very careful with this because your body cannot actually absorb turmeric. It has to be combined with 2 other things in order for the body to actually be able to absorb it and use it for its anti-inflammatory benefits. And for that reason, there's a product that I like. It's called Gaia Golden Milk, which you can also find on Amazon. It's a powder. It has everything in it that you need for the body to be able to use it. But you just take a teaspoon of that, mix it with water every day, and just drink it down. I do it first thing in the morning. The other thing I like about the Gaia Golden Milk is that because turmeric is anti-inflammatory, it also helps you avoid cancers. It helps prevent cancers from developing in your body, and if you do have cancer, it helps to kill off some of those cancerous cells. So it's really good stuff. Even if you're not taking it just for the joints, I take it on a regular basis just for preventative purposes. But if you're in pain, it's going to help because it's going to reduce the inflammation in your body a little bit more quickly for you. The next thing you want to start taking is a product called Joint Support Formula by a company called Anabolic Labs. Now, everybody's heard about joint supplements. We talk about glucosamine, chondroitin, all these different things. I like this supplement in particular because it's a pharmaceutical grade supplement, which means that it's a lot stronger than what you can buy on the shelves at the store. Now, this is also sold on Amazon. Some chiropractors will carry it as well, but this one I like the best. I've seen the best results with it. Okay, so that's something that I recommend that you start taking. And the way that you start with that is you want to take 3 tablets a day for the first month, and after that you reduce it down to 1 tablet a day just to help maintain and keep the process going. This is going to help feed the arthritic joints, and this makes a huge impact as far as how healthy those joints are and also in helping you to reverse the arthritis process. So I really like that supplement and recommend it for you as well. The final thing that you can take that has many different health benefits, but it also is very good for arthritis, is bone broth. I recommend the bone broth from Kettle and Fire. You can just get it directly on their website. It's kettleandfire.com. But the reason that this is good for you is because it's high in collagen. And collagen is a nutrient that your body needs in order to get these joints to heal. So if you're dealing with arthritis, the bone broth is another thing that I would strongly recommend that you start taking on a daily basis. You just drink a cup a day, or as much as you can afford to do, but a cup a day is the ideal. And if you do that on a regular basis, you'll see after about a month or so of taking it that you're going to start to see great improvements in the symptoms of the arthritis. It makes a huge difference with this. So those are the big keys. If you can start to do some of those things and just add those things to your what you're doing on a daily basis here, make sure you're seeing your chiropractor, make sure you're exercising regularly, look at your diet closely to try to make some changes there if you can, and also start to do some of the supplements that we talked about. That combination is very powerful, and it can help do a lot of healing for these arthritic joints. All right, you guys, that's all I wanted to say in this video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. If you think this information is helpful, feel free to share it online if you'd like, and I will talk to you soon.